Every morning at 6 Chi, I unlocked the glass doors of Willow House Bakery, flipped on the warm yellow lights, and breathed in the scent of yeast, cinnamon, and roasted coffee beans. That smell was my childhood. It was also my inheritance, or what I thought would be. My name is Clara Reeves, and I grew up believing my grandfather, Arthur Reeves, loved me and my brother Ethan equally. Turns out, I was wrong. The bakery sat on Oak Ridge Street, a quiet lane in the old district of Salem, Oregon, where families had been around long enough for people to remember your grandparents' names. Grandpa Arthur opened Willow House in 1975. Long before gluten-free was a thing and before Starbucks ever came to town, he used to say, "We don't sell pastries, Clara, we sell comfort," and he meant it. Every pie, every loaf, every cup of coffee was a story. When I was 12, I started helping him after school, kneading dough with small hands, dusted in flour like snow. He'd laugh and tell me, "You've got baker's blood?" Same as me. Ethan, meanwhile, was upstairs with Grandma, studying business textbooks and watching YouTube videos about stock trading. By the time I turned 25, I'd spent more than half my life inside that bakery. I'd dropped out of culinary school to help Grandpa after Grandma's stroke. Ethan had graduated from Stanford with a finance degree and landed a six-figure job in Seattle. He visited twice a year, always in tailored suits, always with that air of someone who'd outgrown the small town. I didn't blame him. Not yet. The day Grandpa collapsed, it was raining. He'd been decorating a strawberry shortcake when I heard the sound of a tray hitting the floor. By the time I reached him, he was already gone. Heart failure, the doctor said. Peaceful. It didn't feel peaceful to me. It felt like the whole world had lost its heartbeat. The funeral was small. Just family, a few regular customers, and the mayor, who gave a speech about community pillars. Ethan arrived in a black Tesla, late as usual, holding his phone like it was oxygen. He hugged me one-armed and whispered, "You look exhausted, Clara. You should take a break after all this." A break. From the only thing holding me together. 2 weeks later, we sat in Benson and Cole law offices, waiting for the reading of the will. The room smelled like lemon polish and paper. Ethan looked perfect. Gray suit, hair slicked back, a Rolex catching the light. I wore my only black dress, the one I'd used for Grandma's funeral. Mr. Benson, Grandpa's attorney, cleared his throat and began reading in that slow, deliberate legal tone. To my grandson, Ethan Reeves, I leave my residence at 214 Willowcrest Avenue, valued at approximately $1.2 million, along with the sum of $300,000 in savings and investments. Ethan's lips curved upward, just barely. He leaned back, crossed his legs, like he already knew. To my granddaughter, Clara Reeves, I leave Willow House Bakery, located at 72 Oak Ridge Street, including all equipment, inventory, and associated debts. Debts? The word burned like acid. Mr. Benson continued, "Additionally, Clara is entrusted with the continued operation of the business for no less than 3 years before any sale may occur." My ears rang. My throat felt dry. The bakery? With debts? Ethan got liquid cash, a mortgage-free house, and I got work. As executor of the estate, Ethan will oversee liquidation of other assets, with authority to determine distribution of any residual funds. I stared at the will, not understanding. Executor? You made him executor? Mr. Benson's voice softened. It was your grandfather's decision. I felt something cold settle in my stomach, a betrayal too quiet for words. Ethan rose, shook the lawyer's hand. "Thank you, Mr. Benson. I'll make sure Clara gets whatever she needs to keep the bakery running." His tone was pure corporate politeness, the kind that hides knives behind smiles. When we walked outside, I could barely see through the tears fogging my vision. Ethan's Tesla key fob chirped, and he turned to me with a smirk. "Don't look so down, sis. Some people just aren't built for real success." Grandpa probably knew that. That was the first time I wanted to slap him. But I didn't. I went home, washed flour from my hands, and cried until my chest hurt. The next few weeks were a blur of bills, suppliers, and phone calls. The bakery wasn't just struggling, it was drowning. The ovens were decades old, the roof leaked, and a loan payment notice arrived addressed to Arthur Reeves. Outstanding balance, $74,000. I found Grandpa's journal in his desk. Most of it was notes about recipes, but tucked inside the back cover was a folded envelope, sealed and labeled, "For Clara, when you're ready." I opened it that night, hands trembling. "My dearest Clara, If you're reading this, I'm gone. And you're probably wondering why I did what I did. Ethan always chased numbers. You always chased meaning. So I gave you what couldn't be counted. The bakery isn't dying, it's sleeping. You're the only one who can wake it up. You see, this town doesn't need another coffee chain or investor. It needs someone who remembers the smell of cinnamon at dawn. Someone who knows Mrs. Kennedy likes extra butter on her toast and that old Jim still drinks his coffee black, no sugar. You see them, Clara, and that's rarer than gold. As for Ethan, his money will keep him warm for a while, but only while it lasts. The house is heavy with emptiness. You'll understand one day why I gave it to him. Don't sell the bakery. Fix it, grow it, love it, and it will give you everything you ever wanted, just not in the way you expect. With all my heart, Grandpa, I read the letter 3 times. Then I looked around the bakery differently. The cracked tiles weren't flaws, they were footsteps in history. The faded menu board wasn't old, it was legacy. Something inside me shifted. I decided that night I'd save Willow House no matter what it took. The next months were brutal. I woke before dawn, baked until my arms ached, and slept on the bakery's office couch. I learned accounting, marketing, even plumbing, because I couldn't afford repairs. I painted the walls myself, built a website, and convinced a few local farmers to sell me fresh ingredients on credit. Slowly, people came back. The smell of real bread drew them in. The old regulars returned, Mrs. Kennedy, Jim, the Hawkins twins, and they brought new faces. We weren't just a bakery anymore. We were a heartbeat returning to life. Then, one day in October, Ethan walked in. He was wearing another perfect suit, but this time his tie was slightly crooked. He looked around, eyebrows raised. "You've done better than I expected," he said, scanning the crowded tables. "Thanks," I replied flatly. "Can I get you something?" He smiled, the kind of smile I'd come to dread. "Actually, yes. I need to talk business." He leaned closer. "I have a buyer interested in the property. Developer from Portland. He'll pay you out, clean slate, big money. You could finally rest. Sell the bakery?" I laughed softly. "You're joking." "Clara," he said, his voice low, patronizing, "you're in debt." "This place is old." "I'm trying to help you." I met his eyes. "You're trying to help yourself." He froze, mask cracking just slightly. "Be careful what you accuse me of," he said coldly. Then he walked out. That night, I went to Grandpa's office again, opened his old file cabinet, and found something I hadn't noticed before. A deed. It wasn't for the bakery. It was for a second piece of land, a small plot behind the bakery, listed under Arthur Reeves Holdings, Trust. And the note attached read, "For the future you'll build when Ethan comes knocking." I didn't know what it meant yet. But I knew one thing. Grandpa had seen this coming. And whatever game Ethan was playing, he wasn't going to win. For months after Ethan's visit, I couldn't shake his words. "Sell it, Clara. It's not worth the struggle." He said it like a kindness, but it sounded like a curse. The bakery had finally started breaking even. Weekends were busy. The locals had made it their morning ritual again. But I still lived on instant noodles and secondhand sweaters. Every cent went back into the business. I kept Grandpa's letter pinned above the register, a reminder of what mattered. Still, every time I looked at Ethan's name on the estate papers, something inside me twisted. He was the executor. That meant control, over taxes, over debts, over anything official. And soon I learned exactly how much power that gave him. It started with a letter from the bank. Notice of default. Loan, 44752. Willow House Bakery. Outstanding balance $74,000. Due to non-payment. Foreclosure proceedings may begin in 60 days. I froze. I'd been making every payment on time. I had receipts. I ran to the accountant who helped with Grandpa's filings, a kind old man named Mr. Phillips, and spread the documents across his desk. He frowned, flipping through the records. "These payments?" he said. "They were never credited to your account. Someone redirected the bank file." My stomach dropped. "Redirected how?" He hesitated. "The executor of the estate has access to all linked accounts." Ethan died. I left his office shaking. My phone buzzed that night, a text from my brother. "You can still take the developer deal. Clean exit before things get ugly." It wasn't a threat. It was a promise. For days, I barely slept. The bakery became my fortress, the hum of ovens my heartbeat. But I wasn't just going to survive. I was going to fight. I started digging. Grandpa's journals, the trust papers, the mysterious land deed behind the bakery. That's when I noticed the fine print. Property type, commercial lot, parcel 88A, zoned for food distribution facility. Ownership: Arthur Reeves, Holdings Trust. Beneficiary: Clara Reeves, upon proof of self-sufficiency for 12 months. 12 months. I'd been running the bakery alone for almost exactly that long. My hands trembled. I checked the date again. Almost. If I could hold on another 30 days without default or closure, the trust would transfer. That land, that trust, was mine. The next morning, I called the bank manager, a woman named Rachel, who used to come in for croissants when Grandpa was alive. I showed her my payment receipts, every check stamped and dated. She leaned back in her chair. Someone overrode the online record. But since you have physical proof, we can file a dispute. It might take time, though. Time. Exactly what Ethan wanted me to run out of. That evening, I saw him again. He was sitting in the corner booth, tie loose, phone face down for once. "I hear you're fighting the default," he said. "You should know how this ends, Clara. You can't outplay me." I poured him coffee, steady hands hiding a racing heart. "Maybe not," I said quietly, "but I can outlast you." He smiled, that same dangerous calm that always meant he thought he'd already won. "You always were stubborn. It's cute. But cute doesn't pay the bills." A week later, my revenge began. Quietly, almost accidentally. A local food blogger came in, filming his breakfast. He posted a 90-second reel titled "Hidden Gem Bakery That Feels Like Home." It went viral. By the weekend, lines stretched down the block. We sold out of pastries by noon, coffee by 1 p.m. Customers begged for pre-orders, catering, delivery. That's when I realized what Grandpa had meant by "it's sleeping." Willow House wasn't dying. It had just been waiting, for me. Within 2 weeks, sales tripled. I hired 2 new bakers, both single mothers who'd been struggling to find work. We opened an early morning breakfast window for commuters, then started weekend farmers market stalls. For the first time, I wasn't surviving. I was building, but Ethan didn't disappear. He started showing up more often, dressed casual now, trying to sound friendly. "How's business?" he'd ask, eyes scanning the crowd. "You've really turned it around," he'd say, voice sugar-coated but tight. I knew what he was doing. He was watching, waiting for me to slip up before the 12-month mark. Because if I defaulted, the trust property would revert to him. One night, after closing, I heard a noise behind the bakery, near the storage shed. When I went outside, I saw the padlock broken, flour bags slashed open, sugar soaked in water. It wasn't vandalism. It was deliberate. I called the police, filed a report, but there were no cameras back there. No proof. I called Ethan the next morning. "I know what you did." He laughed softly. "Clara, you think I have time to sneak around slashing flour bags? You really need sleep." I hung up before I said something I'd regret. But something in me hardened that day. The part of me that still wanted to believe he'd change died. The next few weeks were a blur of caffeine and fury. I installed security cameras, hired a night guard, and poured every ounce of anger into creation. I perfected a new recipe, Grandpa's old-fashioned honey rolls, a soft, buttery swirl with a glaze that tasted like memory itself. We launched them on a Sunday morning. They sold out in 2 hours. Local news picked up the story. Family bakery revived by granddaughter's love and grit. That same evening, I got an email from Rachel at the bank. "Dear Clara, the dispute has been resolved. Payment records confirmed. Loan marked current. Account reinstated in good standing." I sat down right there on the bakery floor and cried. A week later, on the exact date marking 1 year since Grandpa's passing, the trust activated. The property behind the bakery, the one Grandpa had saved for me, officially transferred in my name. When I opened the deed folder, there was another note tucked inside. Just one line written in his neat, looping handwriting: "Now build something he can't buy." That night, I called a contractor. The small plot of land behind the bakery would become the Willow Workshop, a training space for local youth who wanted to learn baking and small business skills. Within 3 months, the foundation was laid. The community rallied around it. Donations, volunteers, local sponsors. Then one morning, Ethan showed up again, this time looking worse than I'd ever seen him. Dark circles, wrinkled shirt, eyes hollow. "I need a favor," he said quietly. I set down the mixing bowl. "Of course you do." He looked at me for a long time before speaking. "My firm let me go. The developer pulled out. I lost the house. Everything's gone. I waited. No pity, no anger. Just silence. He swallowed hard. I was wrong, Clara, about Grandpa. About you. I don't know what to do now. For the first time, I saw not my arrogant brother, but a man stripped of everything that made him feel powerful. I remembered Grandpa's words. Love means giving people what they need, not what they want. Come tomorrow, I said. He blinked. For what? Work. The workshop needs a maintenance hand. It pays minimum wage, same as I started with. You'll start at 6 a.m. Don't be late. His eyes filled with disbelief, then something else. Maybe gratitude, maybe shame. He nodded slowly. Okay. That night, I went to the back room, where Grandpa's old photo hung beside the first Willow House sign. I whispered, "You were right, Grandpa. He's learning." And so am I. Because revenge wasn't always about destruction. Sometimes it was about turning pain into proof that love, when it's strong enough, becomes justice. The first morning Ethan showed up for work, the sun hadn't yet risen. He stood outside the bakery, shivering in an old jacket that didn't fit him anymore. I opened the door, handed him an apron, and pointed toward the storage room. Flour shipment's late. You'll need to unload it when it arrives. He nodded. No argument, no pride, just quiet acceptance. For the first week, he barely spoke. He mopped floors, carried boxes, and fixed leaky pipes. The other workers didn't know who he was. I hadn't told them. To them, he was just Ethan, the new guy. Sometimes I'd watch him from the counter. The man who once mocked my dream now scrubbed the bakery floor with his sleeves rolled up, sweat darkening his collar. And though a part of me wanted to feel triumphant, I didn't. All I felt was peace. Revenge wasn't about watching someone fall. It was about watching yourself rise, without losing who you are. By the second month, Ethan had changed. He started coming in early, earlier even than me. He learned the rhythm of the ovens, the smell that told you when a batch was perfect. One morning, he asked quietly, "What's the right way to knead dough?" "Mine keeps tearing," I smiled. "Stop fighting it. Dough's like people. It needs patience and warmth." He looked at me for a moment, then nodded. "Yeah, I guess it does." One evening, after closing, I found him sitting alone in the workshop. He was staring at the old photo of Grandpa, the one from when he opened Willow House in 1978. "He always believed in you," I said, stepping inside. Ethan didn't look up. I know. I just didn't understand why. He turned to face me. "I thought success meant control. That if I could own everything, I'd never be weak. But this..." He gestured around the workshop, the laughter from the apprentices cleaning up. "This is real. You built something that doesn't just feed people, it changes them." He looked away, ashamed. "I don't deserve to be part of it." I leaned against the counter. "You don't have to deserve it, Ethan. You just have to show up." He smiled faintly. "Then I'll keep showing up." Months passed. The workshop grew. A bakery, a classroom, a heartbeat for the community. Local schools partnered with us. Newspapers wrote about the family that rebuilt hope. When I saw the headlines, I thought of Grandpa's last note. Now build something he can't buy. I finally understood. It wasn't just about ownership. It was about legacy. And legacy wasn't something you inherited. It was something you earned. The following spring, the town held its annual Founders Festival, the same one Grandpa used to bake for every year. This time they invited me to speak. I stood on the small stage, looking out over a sea of familiar faces. Friends, neighbors, even strangers who'd become family. In the front row stood Ethan, dusted in flour, grinning like a kid again. When it was my turn, I took a deep breath and began. "My grandfather, Arthur Reeves, taught me that recipes aren't just for bread. They're for living. A recipe needs patience, balance, and love. But above all, it needs to be shared. Because what good is sweetness if you keep it to yourself?" The crowd clapped, soft at first, then warm and thunderous. And for a moment, I swore I could feel Grandpa there, smiling in the wind that brushed my face. After the festival, Ethan handed me a small envelope. Inside was a folded sheet of paper, a check made out to the Willow Workshop Fund, with nearly all the money he'd saved since starting work. "Use it for the kids," he said simply. "They deserve better tools." I looked at him, the same brother who once tried to sell our family's dream for profit, and felt the final knot in my chest loosen. "Thank you," I said softly. "You did good, Ethan," he hesitated, then smiled. "No, we did good. That evening, after everyone left, I locked the doors and walked to the back garden, Grandpa's old spot beneath the willow tree. The sunset spilled gold across the roof tiles and the air smelled of sugar and rain. I whispered, "We did it, Grandpa. The bakery lives. The family, too." A gust of wind brushed past, rustling the willow leaves, and I smiled through tears. Maybe it was just the wind. Or maybe it was his way of saying, "I told you, it was only sleeping." Epilogue, 1 year later. The Willow House Bakery now trained over 50 apprentices every year. Half of them went on to open their own small businesses, all carrying a bit of our story with them. Ethan became the workshop's logistics head, handling supplies and mentorship programs. He never asked for recognition, and I never needed to offer it. His peace came from purpose. As for me, I still wake before dawn, hands dusted in flour, heart full of gratitude. Every loaf we bake carries a lesson. Every smile we serve is a quiet victory, because sometimes the sweetest revenge is creating something so full of love. Even the ones who once broke you come home to heal inside it.